one of the premier state party organizations in the country. So with that, let me see if you have any questions.
I'll
Yes.
start out with a real happy one.
Okay.
Polls show that most Americans think President Bush is doing a bad job, that the Iraq war is unpopular. There seems to be a noticeable lack of enthusiasm for the GOP presidential candidates. And your party's coming off a disastrous midterm election. Why should you be optimistic about the 2008 election?
Well, I don't agree with a lot of the premises in that question. Let me try to unbundle some of those. As far as a broad base of support, all over the country, here in Ohio, and I think Bob would tell you, we're seeing a lot of people turn out for our Lincoln Reagan dinners. I think the numbers in Ohio are up this year. We remain the largest broad-based political party in the world. While I can't announce to you today the numbers for our first quarter, I can tell you that we met our budget at the RNC for the first quarter, and that we had substantially more individual donors than any of the Democrat candidates, and perhaps all the Democrat candidates put together. We've got a broad base of appeal all over this country. I'm finding a lot of enthusiasm. Look, 06 wasn't a good year for us. I mean, we would be silly not to recognize that. We've got to understand that the voters sent us a message. The message was, when we stray from our principles, we lose. And the Republican Party, some people talk about we need a new brand. Well, our brand is there. Lower taxes and limited government, individual responsibility, and a strong national defense. And when we articulate that message, it resonates with the people of America and also the people of Ohio.
As you look forward to 2008, though, how much of a difference is it going to be in terms of strategy, the fact that you've got a Democratic governor as well as a Democrat in every statewide office except one?
Well, the strategy is going to be that Ohio will continue to be a battleground state, and that shows by me being here this early, and I suspect that you'll see me here many times before the 2008 election. Ohio's a competitive state. You know the history. Clinton carried it twice. Bush has carried it twice. It's an important state for us. This is an important year in 07. I mean, we're here to emphasize the fact that we've got candidates running for local office and mayor's races in the state. We're getting ready for you have a majority of the congressional delegations Republican. You have a majority in your legislatures that is Republican. This is a very competitive state, and we're here to do whatever we can to help the state party.
You said that 06 proved that when the party strays from its message, it loses. What is that message? What should it be?
Well, the brand of our party has to do with lower taxes and less government. We were not total. We had some differences on the role of government, earmarks, the size of government. We've got to get back to understanding that we are a party of less government and lower taxes, and you can see right now that the Democrats are already raising the taxes. The House bill raises taxes over $400 billion. Individual responsibility, I won't get into that a lot. We've done a good job, I think, in appointing judges, and you'll see more of that the next 2 years. But we didn't articulate the strong national defense. We didn't tie together as well as we could have the war on terrorism. And this is about defending the homeland. And we had candidates who were not particularly articulate on that. There were candidates who were involved in scandal, and there's no place for that in Republican or Democrat politics. So there were a combination of reasons that 06 wasn't as good as we'd hoped that it would be.
You talked earlier about Ohio again being a bellwether state in 2008. How much of a bellwether state will Ohio be in choosing the Republican candidate, given the fact that other states have moved their primaries ahead?
Well, that's an interesting question, and Bob and I have been having some talks about that. 53% of the Republican delegates, if every state does what they say they're going to do, will be chosen by February the 6th, which is front loading. Now, the question is, will one person emerge as the presumptive nominee out of that? Currently, we have several candidates who've demonstrated the ability to either raise the money or generate public support to have double-digit or more approval in our polling. And it's not clear to me that we're going to have a presumptive nominee on that day. Ohio may become even more important.
Back in 2006, Democrats really went hard on the issues of the economy and the war in Iraq, and probably will go on war on Iraq in 2008. What do you think are going to be the biggest issues that you're going to try and really attack on and try and get people behind you on?
Well, again, it goes to the principles of lower government, less taxes, individual responsibility, and a strong national defense. And then you can think of the subcategories within that. I know Ohio has had a difficult time, as parts of Kentucky have, from an economic standpoint in the last few years. Your unemployment's above the national average. But if you look at this nationally, 4.4% unemployment. We've had 43 straight months of job growth, 198,000 more last month, 7.3 million jobs in 3.5 years. I mean, I was on the Cincinnati Fed board at one time, the Cleveland Fed board, so I still look at those numbers every month to kind of keep up with that. So the economy is doing very well, and I think you'll hear us talking about that in terms of taxes. The Democrats haven't been in very long, but they're already showing their true colors. They're wanting to eliminate our tax cuts. This $400 billion would mean several $100s to individual taxpayers in Ohio, that they would have additional tax burden. So I think there will be economic issues, and as we're coming up on the 100-day mark of the Democrat Congress, and I'm sure you'll be writing stories about what have they really accomplished so far. Well, I'm not sure that anything's been signed into law yet. Of course, we wanted them to come back off spring break this week and get this horrendous bill that they passed, $120-some billion, that put all the pork in it, coupled with the funding of our troops. We wanted them to get that passed, sent to the president, so that we could get that vetoed and then get the money online to the troops as soon as we can. So you've got that. They're waving a white flag of surrender, and the other thing, they're wanting to raise your taxes. So I think the Democrats are going to create some real interesting issues for us in the 2008 elections.
A little more focused, what do you think are going to be the issues that we're going to have to really try and capture the attention of Ohioans on? Because Ohioans tend to be a little more grumpy, I think, on some of the national issues.
Well, my Ohio friends aren't grumpy, so I don't know that at this stage, 574 approximate days until the election, that I can give you that specific issue. But I think you will hear us articulating our message about the principles of the party this time, and some of it will have to do with the economy. Some will have to do with security, the security of individuals.
Did I hear you say waving the white flag of surrender? Was that in reference to the Democrats of Iraq bill? I mean, do you just equate that?
It's
Could you elaborate on that?
I would. It's more than the bill. I found the bill personally distasteful because of all the pork that was added onto it, and the fact that they would rather score short-term political points than view this in the long-term context of national security. And I think that's what's going on with the Democrat Party right now. They're having a struggle, a war within. They ran as moderates, and now they're being pushed by their left to govern as liberals. And I think the vote, they had to add a lot of pork on to get some blue dog Democrats and others to join with them. But I think it's just part of the bigger picture that they don't understand that the American people want the troops to come home, but they want the troops to come home after we've won. And we've got to give the surge an opportunity, and we've got to set the stage for us to be able to win. And the winning has more to do with the war, the overall war on terror, than it does the war in Iraq. If we just withdraw and make this, it would be much worse than before we were there. It'd be a breeding ground for terrorists, and we would be inviting attacks on American soil. And I firmly believe that, and I think the president is taking a very long-term view and long-term action for the betterment of the country. And I think the Democrats unfortunately, they're being pushed by their left to make short-term political decisions.